Okay, the
Okay.
mics are on, and
Yes.
we'll start off with roll call.
Fred Cobb,
Here?
Janice Bankston,
Here.
Chris Diana, George Francis, Jerry Moreland,
Here.
Lisbeth Searing, Ann Hines Silvas.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Okay, next on our agenda is approval of the minutes for January 28, 2014. That was our regular meeting time. And we'll take a moment now just to review those minutes, after which I'll entertain a motion for approval or modifications. Yeah, we're reviewing minutes now, Chris. You might want to look at page 4.
Page 4.
Mm-hmm. The minutes.
Oh.
Who's that?
You probably see that.
Mhm. Okay. I think we've had time to review this a little bit. Therefore, I will entertain a motion for approval.
I move to approve with the correction you noted on page 4 of Commissioner Diana's name.
Okay. That correction is a misspelling. It says Commissioner Diane instead. Okay.
Thank you.
Is there a second? Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the minutes as written. Any comments? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Ayes have it, and the minutes are approved as written. Okay, next we have what's called petitions and communications, and that's for you in the audience out there. If you want to bring up anything that is not on our agenda, I don't know if you have our agenda, but if you have anything that's not scheduled for this meeting specifically, now's the time to come forward with whatever you want. Does anyone have anything? If not, we'll go ahead and go to staff report.
Okay. The staff briefing, there's that was in your packet. There's just a few things I'll point out. From HUD, Department of Housing and Urban Development, we received a confirmation letter from them acknowledging the final closeout from the CDBGR program, the Green Street project that we did back in 2009. We received acknowledgement of all the forms and documents, and agreement were submitted, so that's good. HUD also requested the Community Development Block Grant. This is their 40th anniversary, and so they wanted some success stories since the 40th anniversary is sometime this year. So that the City of Champaign, in cooperation with us, the City of Urbana, and the State of Illinois, they submitted information regarding Crisis Nursery, since Champaign and Urbana and the state all put funds into that facility, and we submitted a photo that we had. And so hopefully that will go maybe on their website or on whatever it is that they will be doing to celebrate. And then HUD sent a notice and reminder email that when a budget is passed, that it still takes time for them to actually allocate funds to the agencies. And then once they receive their allocations, then they run formulas to determine what those amounts will be. And so as of yet, we haven't heard, but I'll talk more about that when we get to the new business. So, and then we had our public hearing at Hamilton on the Park, February 18th, and then we have another neighborhood meeting on March 4th at Prairie School Library. So those are the highlights. Everything else showing what staff have been doing for the last month. So.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Does anyone have any questions or comments? If not, we'll move to old business. We have nothing listed under old business. Would you have something?
Just a follow-up from our last meeting, Commissioner Diana had asked about the agencies that make up the continuum of care,
Yeah.
and so I just wanted to pass that down. You all can each take one. And this, we are in the process of updating memorandums. We have MOUs with each of the agencies, so these are the current ones that we have. We just actually revised our MOU form, and when that changes and we have additional agencies, or if an agency chooses not to renew it, I will provide an updated list once we get that.
Okay, thank you. Okay, any other old business? If not, we'll go to new business which has one item under it, and that is the draft City of Urbana and Urbana Home Consortium, in parentheses, Champaign/Urbana, Champaign County, annual action plan, fiscal year 2014 to 15. Okay, do we have any preparatory comments?
Yes.
Okay.
The draft annual action plan was made available for public view and comment beginning Monday, February 24th. And copies of the AAP were placed at the Urbana Free Library, the city clerk's office here in the city building, and our Department of Community Development Services, and on the city's website. The 30-day comment period will end March 25th, and there will be a public hearing scheduled before this meeting at 7 p.m. on that evening. HUD sent a notice to all grantees in December, in which grantees were advised not to submit their annual action plan until the 2014 formula allocations had been announced. And they also suggested that grantees include a contingency provision language in their action plan, which explains how the plan will be adjusted to match the actual allocation amounts once those amounts are known. So with regard to CDBG and home programs, the proposed budgets for the activities listed in the AAP will be proportionally increased or decreased from the estimated funding levels to match the actual allocations that we will receive from HUD. And we'll do this prior to submitting our annual action plan to HUD for approval. In the annual action plan, the draft that you received, the wording is noted in here on page 4 about what HUD suggested that we put in the annual action plan. And by including this language, the notice states that a grantee that would be asked, we can avoid the need to make significant revisions to the plan, and we can also avoid the potential need to conduct additional citizen participation on the plan if there happens to be a significant revision to the allocation. So with that, I will let Janelle talk about the Community Development Block Grant, and then Jen will discuss the home program.
Beginning on page 29, we are pretty much basing this off of our current fiscal year FY 13-14 until we receive further notification from HUD, as Kelly mentioned, about our grant allocation. The administration activities, again, we have a 20% cap on that. So that's the maximum amount that we can use, which we've budgeted at about $74,740. Then the affordable housing program, that is our programs that are administered a lot by Randy through the emergency and access grants, as well as the senior repair service program, as well as the delivery of those programs and case preparation, which we are estimating at about $112,000. And you see that breakdown on page 30. The emergency and access grants are budgeted at $60,000. The senior repair service at $15,000. And then if you go on, page 31, our public service activities. Those activities also have a cap of 15%. In public service, we do usually 3 activities. The transitional housing program, those are our transitional houses that are operated by the city of Urbana for homeless families with dependent children. The public service activities under the Consolidated Social Service Funding Pool, and that is a mixture of money between the city general funds, Cunningham Township funds, and we also include a portion of our federal community development block grant funds. And then our neighborhood cleanup in our target areas that we carry out twice a year. And then you can see those breakdowns for those activities. Page 32 goes on to some of the carryover activities that we have. We're estimating for property acquisition and clearance and demolition activities at $60,000. And then we have a few public facilities and improvement projects that are mostly listed on page 33. We still have money set aside for the Kerr Avenue project. And then city infrastructure projects in our targeted neighborhoods, projects that we would like to carry out in conjunction with our Public Works Department. And then the neighborhood streetlight construction. There are still various areas in our targeted neighborhoods that don't have lighting, and so we are hoping to work with Public Works again, as we did on Hunter Avenue. There were 2 streetlights that were installed there. We would be considering doing other projects similar to that in certain pockets in our target neighborhoods to provide much needed lighting. So page 34 gives you a summary of that budget and what that looks like. So our grand total, including carryover that is estimated, is roughly $492,025. Thank you. Any questions about the community development block grant budget?
The summary is nice, to have it all on one page with it's really nice, clear.
You spoke of other target areas for the lighting. Do you know any other streets specifically off the top that are, you mentioned Hunter. Are there any other?
That we did that project
Right.
last year. I think that with the capital improvement plan, Kinch Avenue, roughly between Washington and Florida, is an area that is being considered to also have lighting there. Sure.
Just along those same lines on the lighting, what's the estimate of what could get accomplished with that budget on lighting?
The project that, if we do a lighting project, it will possibly be in about 2 years. It will take a little bit of money.
Right.
The nice thing about it is that if we can do it in-house, we do save a little bit of money by having it installed by Public Works and just doing a small project, just 1 or 2 new installations of streetlights. The project on Hunter was roughly about $40,000.
Oh, I thought it was less than that. Wasn't it maybe about half that?
Okay, maybe half
It was
of that.
about half that.
Sorry.
That's
That's
okay.
okay.
So a little bit of the money will be set aside for that, and then hopefully, depending once we get the final allocation, and depending on what we get for 15-16, we'll determine that we have enough funds to be able
Do
to
it
carry
in-
out a
in the
project like
second
that.
year. Okay, thanks.
In addition, we're also waiting for Public Works to give us like some estimates as well, so that we can determine even more, what we can set aside.
Is Kinch in the target? Kinch is in the,
Kinch is just on the edge of our target area. That is the boundary, the most eastern boundary of Track 56, Area 1.
So I kind of get the idea that, Kinch running north and south, there's a lot of eastbound, east and west streets that run west of Kinch that seem a little dark as well. I mean,
I believe that Kinch Street might have been chosen too because there is a newly added bike path as well on Kinch. And so that lighting would help with the bike travel. There's a lot of pedestrian travel that go along Kinch, and maybe to help that. But there are other areas. If you back on page 33 under the city infrastructure projects on item number 2, it is possible that in some of those same areas that, like we did the Matthews Street reconstruction that included street lights, there will be some of those same projects when we do that will also need lighting. So there are a variety of areas, and we're hoping to hit each of these little pockets over an extended period of time.
you mentioned, I don't mean to interrupt, but you mentioned Matthews Street. I have to compliment the city on that construction on Matthews. It really looks good. Right on.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Is there anything that's significantly different from prior?
No, this is
It's-
what we did just to really make it based on the information that we have, which is not much, but using the grant amount that we got for this year, this is very, very similar to what we're currently doing and the activities that we can carry out with the funds that we've been awarded by HUD. So if our allocation is similar to this, we will adjust that accordingly.
And the cost for personnel, is that percentage approximately the same as before?
Yes, there have not been any increases in personnel costs. Our cap is definite at 20%, so we won't be able to spend more than that on personnel. So we are very meticulous about staying within that budget guideline.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, so this will be at the library and online?
Yes, it is
For
there
viewing.
right now. Yes, placed them yesterday. So,
Okay,
And I will turn it over to Jen to tell you about the home budget.
okay.
Great, thanks. I'm actually going to hang out on the very back page of the plan. That's where the home program budget summary's located. And this is just a great overview of the breakdown of how the home funds are split up. Same with the CDBG. For home funding, we're basing our budget off of this year's current allocation, $693,396. We also put a rough guesstimate of program income there of $37,000. And then the match requirement is also listed there, and that's kind of split amongst the different consortium members who are carrying out activities. The 10% of the grant is used for administration, and then below that, we list out the 15% required community housing development organization set aside of 15%. That's $104,009, as well as the Choto operating below that of $34,669, and then that balance of $485,000. And change is split up amongst the 3 consortium members, so the City of Urbana, City of Champaign, and Champaign County. The City of Champaign's portion is 54.91%, and if you'll recall, the percentages that were prorated changed a little bit after the the U.S. Census was redone, so these numbers are up to date. So we're not expecting any changes there. So 246,000 and change is expected to go to the city of Champaign, and they have consistently been allocating $90,000 to their TBRA programs, and those are generally they will subcontract those out. They'll split it in half. So 45,000 usually goes to the Center for Women in Transition for their transitional housing program. And then the other 45,000 has been going to the Champaign County Regional Planning Commission, and that's to assist with augmenting their No Limits TBRA program. If they do what they've been doing over the past few years, that's where we're expecting those funds to go. And then the remainder goes under their neighborhood revitalization program, which details various activities that they could undertake. We are expecting them to move forward with the Bristol Place project. We just don't know the timeline quite yet and what that's all going to look like. But there's been plenty of press on it. So hopefully they're trying to gear up, figure out how they're going to allocate their funding, how they're going to structure it. So I would expect that Champaign's funds will largely go to that particular neighborhood. For the county, they've consistently been splitting their funds up between the tenant-based rental assistance program and then housing rehabilitation. They just like to set aside the funds in the event that there is a house that's in desperate need of some code repairs. But in general, they've actually been moving all of their money into the tenant-based rental assistance program when no housing rehab projects are identified. And then for Urbana, we're hoping to continue with our successful whole house rehabilitation program. We're still consistently rehabbing between 5 and 7 houses, which is great, especially considering all the funding cuts we've seen. And then the city redevelopment program, which is just on the preceding page, we list several different activities. We did take advantage of this, I believe. Well, I don't think we listed it quite the same, but we had listed it as a down payment assistance program. So that is something we've been considering. We ran out of the pot of money that we'd originally set aside. I believe it was through an amendment. So it was $100,000. We got down to about $40,000 left, and that was the funds that we had set aside as a match, or what do you call it? Not liability, but leverage for the Federal Home Loan Bank of Chicago program. So at this point, we still have the $40,000 left, but we're waiting for those contracts and the funds to come in from the FHLB to start those final 10 projects moving into the next fiscal year. So if that moves really quickly and moves well, we might consider amending some of our funds to do something like that, but that would most likely come through some sort of amendment and would not be listed in the plan because it's just too early to tell. But yeah, that's the overview. I can answer any questions if there are any.
Questions?
So in the objective, my turn. In the objectives, you list provide decent housing. Is that a technical term? What's decent housing?
It is a technical term, I guess, in terms of we are required to bring housing up to local code standards. So if there is a local code, we have to abide by it. In areas like unincorporated Champaign County, they follow slightly different rules, and HUD has guidelines for that as well. But here, we follow local code.
Anyone else? I guess not. Thank you very much. Okay. Any other comments on our draft annual action plan?
If you, after reviewing this, since we do have the 30-day, public comment period, if you, want to continue to review, if you have any other things that come to mind, you can certainly, email us, anything that we get from the public regarding any comments regarding allocations or programs, we include it in the citizen participation part of our annual action plan when we submit it to HUD. Since our consolidated plan requires that we get public input, so we make sure to include all that information when we submit it to HUD.
So will this be on our next agenda for the next meeting?
Yes.
Okay.
We'll have a public hearing first. That will be the end of our 30-day public comment period, will be the public hearing. And then I think the final is on the actual agenda for the meeting, because then it has to be approved to go on to council for their approval. So,
Okay. Anyone else have comments? If not, looks like that was our only item under new business. But Kelly, did you say you wanted to bring something else, elaborate on something under new business when you were in the staff report?
no, well, it was when I talked about the memo that had the information in it that I said I would bring up was actually in the memo about the notice that we received from HUD regarding our
Yeah.
allocation. So that's what it was.
Okay. All right. That concludes all of our agenda for this evening. Does anyone have anything else they'd like to bring up for this evening's meeting? Does anyone out in the audience have anything you'd like to bring up? If not, thank you very much, and meeting is now adjourned.